Gaming Bolt presents 15 toughest bosses in Demon Souls. We often talk about the difficulty of bosses in titles like Dark Souls and Bloodborne, the former being especially interesting since there are 3 games to draw from. However, what about the game that started it all, Demon Souls? Fortunately, that game has no shortage of tough bosses either. Let's take a look at the top 15 bosses in Demon Souls from weakest to strongest. Adjudicator. The Adjudicator is big, slimy, and has a tongue that could, well, we won't say. But he's far from tough. Because of his large size, it's easy to maneuver to his back and slice him aplenty. He'll even kneel over forward if you do enough damage, thus exposing his head for massive damage. Though the Adjudicator may come off as a complex fight, he's really not all that tough. Leechmonger. There are memes about pelting a Souls boss to death with arrows from afar. The Leechmonger is the embodiment of that meme, and it's especially easy to pull off since the fight begins with you above it. While the Leechmonger will spit venom at you during all this, it also won't regenerate health, which is the only real strength it has. Storm King. More tedious than difficult, the Storm King seems more interested in boring you to death than anything else. It will fly in the air and send its minions after you. Once they're dead, the Storm King will fly down, offering a chance to attack it. Of course, he then flies up and the process begins anew. The only real challenge is avoiding damage from its minions, and honestly, it's not tough at all. Dirty Colossus. The Dirty Colossus is one of those bosses that's dedicated to testing your one particular mastery of a skill above all else. In this case, it's about how good you are at dodging. The fight itself doesn't demand much else. Once you learn the Colossus' patterns, simply attack when there's an opening. Repeat until victorious. Tower Knight. Here's where the game starts to push you with its boss fights. Hilariously enough though, Tower Knight is actually a boss you fight pretty early in the game, thus putting you to that test immediately. The entire process is straightforward enough once you understand it. Simply kill the archers on the staircase, and then run up to the Tower Knight to attack his feet. He'll fall and expose his head for major damage. From there, it should be an easy enough win. Armored Spider. Armored Spider can be really annoying, especially because A, the fight takes place in a narrow tunnel, and B, it breathes fire at you. It's not impossible though. If you find cover behind one of the wooden pillars in the tunnel, and manage to attack it from afar with projectiles, you should be good. Getting this to properly work will take some doing though. Maiden, Astraea, and Garl, Vinland. Maiden Astraea is probably the weakest boss in the game. However, she's guarded by Garl, Vinland, a fairly tough knight who will beat the ever-loving tar out of you. So what makes this so easy? You can actually kill Astraea from afar with arrows, and Garl will lose the will to fight unless you attack him. He won't even reappear if you reload the game after killing Astraea. Penetrator. Magic users will have a pretty easy time with this fight if they stay back. Melee warriors, on the other hand, will have to climb aboard the struggle bus. The Penetrator has exceptionally long reach, thanks to its oversized sword, and dodging his attacks is far from easy. His patterns can also be a little tough to predict, but once you figure out how to properly avoid the massive damage he deals, a shield would help in this situation. He's yours to kill. Blue Dragon. You'll learn to hate Blue Dragon, because, well, he sucks. It's not enough that he follows you around, harassing your very way of life, but then he'll perch himself above a doorway that you must pass through. Try stepping through, and you're burned alive. Fortunately, there's a pretty good cheese for all this. Summon Bjor, let him run ahead, and while the dragon is distracted, get under the doorway and paint his face with arrows. Sounds simple, but if you don't have Bjor as a summon, the fight can be a real pain. Vanguard. Following the tutorial, the Vanguard will be your first major challenge in Demon Souls. There's not much to this fight aside from avoiding his attacks and battling back. The problem is that since you're pretty weak at this point, the Vanguard can destroy you very easily. There are some absolute madmen who have managed to beat Vanguard fair and square at this point, and really, it's to be expected from the Souls community. Old King Doran. Though not a proper boss, he doesn't have a meter at the bottom of the screen, for instance. Old King Doran is no simple NPC. He'll invite you to beat him up, but will soon start to fight back, displaying his ridiculous health pool and damage power in the process. If you don't have the right weapons to properly tackle him, Doran can embarrass you pretty easily. The Old Monk. So what makes this such a tough battle? Long story short, it's a fight against another player. That doesn't sound nearly as bad, especially when the game will default to an AI routine if a player isn't available. But when you factor in the other person's skill, which can adapt to your own, unlike the AI, and issues like lag and network quality, the Old Monk can be a very frustrating fight. False, or Old King Allant. Get a load of this jerk. Known either as False or Old King Allant, this particular doozy is highly resistant to magic. Furthermore, he can drain your soul level, permanently. No joke. Fighting Allant involves circling around him, dodging an attack, and then striking back before jumping away. Under no circumstances should he get close, unless you want to handicap yourself for the rest of the game. Maneaters. Yes, Maneaters. That's plural. When starting out the fight, you must battle a single gargoyle flying in the sky as you walk along a narrow path. Damage the first Maneater, and the second one shows up, and suddenly, life is miserable. Both Maneaters deal obscene amounts of damage and are perfectly capable of knocking you off the path. Fire weapons will make things a bit easier on the whole, but you've got to have equal amounts of skill and luck in this battle. Flamelurker. There's often some debate that goes on about what is the toughest boss in a Dark Souls series game. There's no such doubt in Demon Souls though, because it's Flamelurker. It's always Flamelurker. He deals a ridiculous amount of damage and will burn you to a crisp if you don't possess flame-resistant armor. Not only do you have to fight face-to-face and avoid getting trapped, but also make no mistakes. Flamelurker is simply overwhelming to battle, and beating him is a true testament to one's skill in Demon Souls.
And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at Gaming Vault, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.